welcome to another episode of the Popcorn Conspiracy. I'm Dave G, and joining me tonight is my co-host.
Hello everybody, I'm Kyle.
And tonight we're taking a look at one of the big Oscar films for this year. It's a film that you've probably heard about already because it was getting a lot of buzz after it was screened at different festivals around the world. We're talking about Darren Aronofsky's new film, The Whale. Now, of course, this film stars Brendan Fraser playing Charlie, a morbidly obese man who is very, very close to dying. Basically, the only person that he has any kind of relationship with these days is Liz, played by Hong Chow, who is his nurse, but also has a different side to her as well, which I won't go into because I think that's a spoiler. But his life is literally flashing before his eyes at the start of this film, and he starts to realize that he hasn't got long left. Now that starts an interesting time for him, because suddenly he wants to reconnect with his daughter Ellie, played by Sadie Sink, but also at the same time another guy comes into his life, Thomas, played by Ty Simpkins, who says that he's a missionary, and he becomes part of Charlie's life despite the fact that Liz doesn't want him there. Now, mate, this is a film I know I saw this with you a while ago. We got to see this at a very, very advanced screening, and yeah, I think it blew us both away. But what were your feelings on The Whale, aside from the fact that you no longer want to put mayonnaise on a pizza?
Oh man, yeah, this movie broke me because it is such a heartbreaking film. I know Darren Aronofsky he's got a bit of a reputation of being somebody that's able to take an actor that most people have kind of forgotten about and put them in a role that just has people screaming that they deserve an Oscar. And he did this with Mickey Rourke, with The Wrestler.
Yeah. And
yeah, he's done it again here with Brendan Fraser. Even though a lot of this movie, it's kind of a novelty of Brendan Fraser being in this fat suit. It's so much of an actor's performance movie, and you usually, like, you see so many other movies that do things like this with like actors in fat suits or whatever, Nutty Professor, things like that, and they're full on comedies. This is just, it's so sad, and it's so like heartbreaking looking into this guy's life and what it is that brought Charlie to this situation, what it is that made him do this to himself. And yeah, it's so beautifully acted by Brendan Fraser in it that, like, yeah, like very rarely I don't think ever have I been like brought to tears by just simply watching an actor just sit there. But yeah, it's like the way that he holds himself, the way that he moves and breathes, and all of it just feels it's so sad and realistic.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't look like, oh, this is a guy wearing a fat suit. It's like, it's so believable, and just, like, basically what is essentially what very well might be the last week in Charlie's life, and just to see him trying to kind of set things right and try to do something good in his life, even though he knows that he's pretty much dying. It's so devastating to watch, and yeah, it really was an amazing film with amazing performances. But what did you think of it yourself, David?
Yeah, look, I was in the same boat as you. I think I was crying right there beside you, and which is interesting because I normally don't cry in a movie except if a dog dies, and then like I start to cry. But what I think this film, I've been waiting for this film for a long time. In that, I've been waiting to see Brendan Fraser play another serious role, because one of my favorite films of all time is Paul Haggis's Crash, and Brendan Fraser plays a serious role in that film. And then there have been so many times when Brendan Fraser has been in films that I've hated over the years. that it's frustrated me because I've known that he's had a performance like this in him because of Crash. And then you see movies like George of the Jungle and is it Furry Vengeance?
Yeah.
That are such awful films, and it's like, it's frustrating because it's like this guy had this in him the entire time. And it was interesting because I was having a discussion with my wife today, and we were talking about Colin Farrell, and we were talking about the fact that I wonder if he's happier now when he's making movies that are a little bit artistic, that are getting him Oscar nominations, than when he was the poster boy of Hollywood making these big blockbusters, because he had that period in his career where nobody wanted to cast him after he had like 2 or 3 big bombs. Nobody wanted to cast him, and suddenly he reinvented himself as a serious actor. Brendan Fraser is kind of the same. I mean, Brendan Fraser was the toast of Hollywood when he was making The Mummy and all of those films, and then he's kind of been making B-grade movies over the last few years, and now all of a sudden he's bounced back in this serious role, and it's like, I wonder now, does he kind of regret those other movies that he's made in the past? Does he wish he was doing this all along? But like you said, it's the Aronofsky effect, where he takes an actor that has no right being in a role, he puts them in that role, and then they absolutely shine. Like, there's no hint of comedy in this film at all, but Brendan Fraser, if he wins the Oscar, he deserves it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is so much because of how likable he is. As you say, like, even when you're watching his movies from the past, like Blast from the Past and The Mummy and even Furry Vengeance and Monkey Bone, and like, he was a very charismatic, funny, likable guy, and he brings so much of that to this role that even though it is very much a dramatic movie, if they had have gotten a much more serious actor, I think it might not have worked quite as well.
Yeah.
Like, had they gotten I don't know, like any other, like, really, like Daniel Day-Lewis, or somebody that's much more known for their serious acting, I don't think it would have had the same effect. It's because Brendan Fraser is such a likable actor, and he has that personality, he has that charisma, that when you see that within this character of Charlie, it just makes what that character's going through all the more heartbreaking.
Yeah. And
I like that, even though a lot of what the characters in this movie are doing is there's a lot of negative things that characters are doing, like what Sadie Sink, Ellie, the character of his daughter, like, she's kind of a bit of a bitch, and but they still managed to handle it in a way that you still like the character. And Liz, Charlie's only friend, like, she's more or less his nurse, but she's enabling a lot of what he's doing. Like, she brings him his big giant buckets of chicken and giant sandwiches and stuff. She's enabling it, but at the same time, you throughout the movie, when you find out kind of what it is that maybe is making her do that, and there is a reason, but we won't go into it. It makes you empathize with her character so much. So I loved how the movie, as simple as a story as it is, it's just like the entire thing is just set in this one guy's apartment. It very much is a movie that you can tell it's based on a play, but just I loved how much you appreciate the characters as the movie goes on and you learn more about them.
Yeah. That's one of the things I was going to say makes this film so special, and why I deliberately didn't want to ruin a lot of that when I was talking about what the film is about, because there's a lot of layers to this film, and there's a lot of things revealed during this film that that are a shock to the audience, and I want people out there to experience it the way that we experienced it. Because, to be honest, and I'm not sure about you, all I knew about this movie when I went into it was about a fat Brendan Fraser. That's all I knew about the film. I didn't know any of the story at all. And there's things that come out during this film that I found lifted the story, because it's like, wow, I didn't see that coming. Like, it almost feels like a thriller in that sense that, like, you know that this character is terminally ill, and you're learning things about him. I mean, there's even like a bit of a mystery in there about why, at the start of the film, why his ex-wife Mary, played by Samantha Morton, doesn't want to have anything to do with him, and why him and Ellie, his daughter, are so split and divided. That all plays out as the film goes on. And I also don't want to ruin stuff for people at the start, but there's like an absolutely shocking moment at the start of this film that takes the audience to a place where you want to know more, whereas I would argue that the shocking scenes at the start of Babylon were more there for shock factor, whereas what you see at the start of this film is there to set up Charlie as a character and to show what his life has become. So yeah, I think this is one of the most powerful films I think I've seen in a long, long time. And yeah, like I said, I can't say anything more except for the fact that I hope this film wins a lot of Oscars, because to me, it's just an absolutely amazing film that deserves everything it wins. I think the performances here are amazing. Brendan Fraser is fantastic. Sadie Sink is fantastic. Hong Chow is fantastic. Even Ty Simpkins, I think, does an amazing job with this film. And so to see a film where you're thinking 4 people should win an acting award for it, it's so rare in these days and times, but you feel that when you watch this film.
Yeah, like Hong Chow was quite a surprise in this movie, because I had just seen her in The Menu.
Yep. And
she stood out in that, playing a completely different character. And then, like, here's just another movie that, like, she within the same year, and she blew me away in this one as well. So, like, yeah, as you say, just the performances of almost all the characters in it are just amazing. I really liked how claustrophobic the whole film felt.
Yeah.
Like, it's shot in like 4:3, like the full screen, like not widescreen. And so Brendan Fraser with the suit and with like his enormous girth, he pretty much fills the frame all the time. And he's stuck in this house. It's so claustrophobic and so especially like the play that it's based on. I think it debuted in 2012, and the thing is, like, this movie coming out after COVID, a lot of people, like, it really does harken back to how claustrophobic a lot of people felt during lockdown, being trapped in their homes. And so I think that really, I know there's something just about that just added to the kind of just the feel of the entire film, that even though it is a relatively simple film, just the way that Darren Aronofsky makes you feel, and the way that Brendan Fraser makes you feel in it in particular, it really is like a freight train on your emotions.
Yeah, Aronofsky makes you feel like you are Charlie with this film, that you're trapped in that apartment and that you can't go outside. Like, there's a great storyline that goes throughout this film where this pizza man, Dan, who's played by, and I'm going to say this wrong, Satar Siridaran, comes to the house just about every day. And it's like, at times, he's the closest to a friendship that Charlie has, but Charlie will never let himself be seen by Dan. Like, he won't even go to the door when the guy drops off the pizza and says, "Hey man, are you okay?" You almost feel like that as an audience as well, where you feel like you're trapped with Charlie and that you can't get out of this space, and then the lights go up in the theater, and you're like, oh, I can leave. But getting that feeling is so rare in films these days. Like, I reckon the last time I felt that was the movie where Ryan Reynolds is trapped underground.
Buried, I think.
Yeah. Or Fall. I think I got that with Fall as well, the one where the girls are up the radar tower, and you get that feeling where the filmmaker brings that feeling to the audience, because I know people had to walk out of Fall because they have a fear of heights in real life, and that movie was so eerily realistic that they left the cinema because they felt the nausea coming on. And I think a lot of people felt that as well with the Ryan Reynolds film Buried, that you felt trapped with this character because the camera doesn't move from him the entire time. So I think that's rare in cinema these days, and it's one of the reasons why when people talk about this film and they praise Brendan Fraser, I'm feeling like, no, you need to also praise Darren Aronofsky, because he's done an amazing job as a director, but also Samuel Hunter, the screenwriter here, has done an amazing job with this screenplay where it feels like an onion. It feels like they just rip back the layers, and there's more and more coming out that makes this man's life not only disgusting in a sense, but a terrible existence. So yeah, that just adds to the film as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, there's even like minor parts in it that I really appreciated. Like when Charlie is trying to go into his old bedroom, and he can't, like, at one point he's having trouble getting in there because he just can't get the key. He's so big, he's so fat, he drops the key, he can't get it. He needs somebody's help. Then when he finally gets the door unlocked, he can't get in there because he's too fat to get in through the door. And it just it's like on kind of like a deeper level. It's like, that the character, he can't go, and there's something in there that is relating to why he's in the situation that he's in. It's like, that because of his weight, like, he can't go back.
Yeah.
And just there's so many, as you say, it's like an onion.
Yeah.
That it's just it keeps, there is so much to this movie, and I 100% agree with you, man. The way that it really is a film that you feel uncomfortable and you feel kind of claustrophobic in the cinema watching the movie. We've mentioned a few films like that in the past where you might, a lot of people watch movies streaming. A lot of people don't go to the cinemas now because it's just easier to watch the films at home. Like almost just wait a few weeks and it'll be available to download. But this is a movie that, even though it's not a big action movie, it's not a Top Gun, it's not an Avatar or anything like that, but it still is a movie that I think is really worth seeing in the cinema.
Yeah.
Even despite the fact it's a drama, it really is a movie that the experience of, I think that a lot of these kind of movies, it's kind of the same thing as like watching a movie on a plane or whatever. Like, you're kind of like, your emotions are heightened.
Yeah.
And I think that watching this movie like on home video, I think that might actually lessen it.
Yeah.
In a way, I think it really is a movie that really deserves to be seen, to be watched in cinema. It's full on. There's no escape, and you can't just pause it to go do whatever. It's like, no, you've got to sit there and watch it. And I think that really helps how effective the movie is.
Definitely, I agree. Now, another question I wanted to throw in there as well is, how do you think this is going to go with the Oscars? It's been nominated for 3 Oscars. Do you think it's got a chance of winning any of them?
I really hope that it wins at least best actor for Brendan Fraser. Like, that's one. I can't say that I've seen all the other movies that have been nominated, but for me personally, this is 100% the best lead performance I saw in a movie in 2022.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I
so
personally,
torn.
yeah.
I'm so torn because I want Colin Farrell to win as well. It's like,
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. It's like, yeah, I'd say that's probably it's going to be a toss up between the two of them because they were both so great in their respective films.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting one, but yeah, this is it is like you said, it's going to be a film that's hard for some people to watch, but for me, it's just pure cinematic perfection, which I guess leads to the big question now of what are you going to give this one out of 5?
Yeah, I'm going to give this 5 out of 5. So much of it is an actor's movie, and like I said, I was just left devastated at the end of the movie, and so much of it has to do with just Brendan Fraser's amazing performance. Even just the fat suit, I didn't even go into that. Just how good the fat suit looks. I'm going to go down a whole tangent. I've seen a lot of movies, like we were talking about how bad the fat suit on Thor looked in Endgame, right? And that's how much money did they spend on that movie, and how bad that fat suit looked. You could tell that the character's wearing these cuffs to cover up the seam of where the actor's hands were, where his real hand started and where the fat suit began, you know?
Yeah.
There's nothing like that in this movie.
Yeah.
Like he's not wearing there's a lot of shortcuts that they could have taken for what's obviously a lower budget movie. There's a lot of shortcuts they could have taken. They could have had him wearing bulkier clothes or something that would have made the appliance of the special effects makeup a lot easier, and they didn't. It's like Charlie is wearing the kind of things that a 600-pound fat man would wear in his own house. Yeah. And so it just looks so believable the entire time. You just accept it. And yeah, I'm gonna have to give it a 5 out of 5. I could not think of a way that this movie could be better for the story that it tells. So 5 out of 5 for me.
I'm the same. I'm giving it 5 as well. Like I said, Brendan Fraser's performance here is just out of this world. It is absolutely amazing, but I also think the screenplay is an amazing part of this film as well. It just reveals so much, and it reveals it at the right time. So many Hollywood movies these days, it feels like it drops a bit of information. You're like, you needed to have told me that earlier, or you should have told me that later. This reveals all the information that it needs to at the right time, and then when you add in the other cast's performances around Brendan Fraser, the direction of Darren Aronofsky and how he makes people feel when they're watching this film, I think it's just an absolutely amazing film. It's one of the best films I've seen in years, and I'm giving it 5 stars as well. And that's it for this episode of The Popcorn Conspiracy. Kyle and I both gave The Whale 5 stars. If you love cinema and you love dramatic, artistic films, go along and check out The Whale. But for now, I've been Dave G.
And I've been Kyle.
And we'll be back soon with another episode of The Popcorn Conspiracy.